Digital natives. When I hear like digital, I think, a computer, I might think of a smartphone. But when I hear the word natives, I actually think about the next generation, and this is just kind of like all they know. So I am an entrepreneur. I've been in the real estate industry now since 1997, and our idea of technology was actually being able to fax. So, Mina, when you hear the word digital native or digital natives from the education space, or just really just digital natives, what do you think?
That's a good question. I think of like, well, first of all, I've been in the education industry since the late 1900s. I like to say it that way because it's funny. But digital
Oh,
native,
that just sounded like I was like, did she mess up?
no, the late 1900s. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Anyway, um, native, kind of like the people that are native to a land. Like this is like in the United States, we have indigenous people. Like they were here first. Well, you become here first when it's already there. And you talk about when the World Wide Web came about. Like people who are born today, people who are born even after 2000 are digital natives, according to the World Wide Web. So these are people who grow up with what we call an extra appendage. Like literally, they're born and they will never know a world without a cell phone. They will never know at this point. I mean, since the conversation is here, they will never know a world without generative AI. They will never know a world without social media. They will never know a world where you can do this, be on some type of online platform and have a conversation. We are so connected. Where before, if you wanted to, I mean, remember when we wanted to go out and play, you had to get out of the house, go knock on their door because God forbid you use the telephone or ask somebody to use the phone, had that fast busy, which some people don't even know what that is. But you had to go and knock on the door. You had to go down the street. Like we were outside that was our way of connecting. Now you don't need to do that. Like you don't even need to leave your house. I mean, we proved that with COVID-19 just to connect. Like we got really good at tech and what we need to do with it. So, I mean, in my mind, I come from the education perspective. So
Space.
I'm thinking, how are kids coming to school? And there are some of us, some Gen Xers are like, we see kindergartners with this thing, and we're like, how can you afford that? Like there are families that would go without some things, but they won't go without their phone. There isn't, I don't know of one person that will go without this, at least in the United States. Uh,
They say
and
that the data says that people would rather, um, I think it's not have a toothbrush than lose their phone.
oh yeah, that's a thing. I mean, okay, so if you go back to the Great Depression, back then it was people wouldn't go without their makeup or alcohol. Now it's I'm gonna give up my toothbrush. I mean that gives me
Look, you
all
can go to the
kinds.
Dollar Tree. We got you hooked up. Dollar Tree's
Yeah,
down. I mean, even the toothpaste might, I don't know,
you can
but
go get a free one. I mean,
you can
you
probably
can
walk
get,
into the hotel lobby and be like, I forgot my toothbrush.
yeah, really, yeah, they'll just hand you a toothbrush. So I mean, there's so many things to think about. I mean, even when we were younger, I mean, perspective, like when we had
The early
MySpace,
1900s.
the late
I'm
1900s.
sorry, the late 1900s when you were younger.
Yeah. We just it's the comedy is, I mean, MySpace was like a thing. Like, and I've recently logged in my account. And I was like, I can
Oh, I
still
should
see
do
my
that.
account. But kids are, I was just on YouTube and there was this teenager and she couldn't be more than 15. Maybe she's even 13. And she is got 1 million followers on YouTube. She talks about fun stuff. She's engaging and she's making money. So we're at a place in the world, okay, the technology, like it just does stuff when I lift my thumbs up, um, where kids are doing stuff before we'll just go with teachers and administrators. Like they already know that they don't worry about breaking the system. Like we are like, well, you need to teach me how to do this. I'm like, I'll just go learn it myself. I can go on YouTube. Like we had the Dewey Decimal System when we walked into the library and we had to check out a book. And we were like, I don't even know how to, like, we had to learn how to go check out a book with this whole card system. And now I don't need to do that. I can log in here, read the book online, listen to the book online. And if I wanted to listen to a book on tape, you had to check out the cassette tape or the then CD to listen to it. Now it's just in this little pocket, this creative little the thing. I mean, that's what a
So here we
digital
go.
native is.
So I got to go way, way, way back because you said something a long time ago about we had to make we didn't pick up the phone to go play with our friends. We didn't have a smartphone. We weren't texting like, hey, you up? Because even today, if you ring my doorbell, I'm like, who's at my door? Why are you here? I'm like, you didn't call me. I'm like, I'm doing something and you just messed me up. Like back when we were kids, we got up and the Lewis twins were guaranteed to be up before everybody else because we wanted to go play outside. So there's something about how technology has shifted the conversation or shifted how we work and how we think. And so yeah, let's talk about like like we could easily talk about how the first brick phone was in like 1983. The iPhone first launched in 2007. The first actual cell phone was invented in 1973. I remember when my grandma would always talk about how they would have party lines. That means a bunch of people were talking on the phone because there wasn't just a one-way
Like, I
connection.
need the phone next. Can you get off? But you could tell that person that.
Right. But
Now
here,
this is the party line.
the party line is we could all be on like this, like Zoom. And I remember because I worked for a company called NEC Technologies in the 90s. And I remember NEC was probably one of the first to do like overseas this, like Zoom on steroids. We were all in a boardroom and the cameras were set up like a television studio, and it was thousands of dollars to have a conversation with those higher ups in another country. And today everything is moving so quickly. So when we think about the digital natives, or it could really be digital natives versus Gen X, baby boomers, silent generation. How is this shaping our industry? And let me just say, let me start with this. So I've been in the real estate industry since 97. I luckily got into tech. Some of you should go back and listen to our conversation on what it was like when um I got my tech job because of you, because of your skills. So when we talk about the history of what we've done, or so I'm hearing the grandbaby just talk like really loud, so I'm
Okay.
distracted by distraction.
I don't hear it at all.
Good. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna get up and shut my door in a second. So back to my thoughts. When I think about technology and being an entrepreneur, why is it important for anyone in any business to embrace even as something as simple as um, understanding using your smartphone with apps versus actually going to the browser on a phone and using Facebook?
My perspective, it's a learning tool. I have it. I would use this system, phone, social media, whatever it is. I can learn exponentially, and I don't have to wait to go to class. Now, I can learn this way going to class. There's always going to be someone that has knowledge that I need. However, I can take free courses at MIT, and these free courses I can just take. But do they come from a professor? Absolutely. I can go and learn how to adjust something in my car on YouTube. I can, as an educator, record what I am doing right now for kindergartners or first graders or chemistry students, repurpose it, because the rule is that you need to hear or do something on average between 7 and 21 times before it to become like a natural habit, or to go into your long-term memory. So if I have access to it, I can just hit repeat. I can go back. I want to use the word rewind because, the old tech, but the recording is there for life. And this recording will be there for life. So our children and their grandchildren and their grandchildren or children's grandchildren will have a visual of us. Like we don't have that from our generation. We get to learn about a generation and learn about people. I mean, people in other countries, there's this idea that Africa is what we would call a level 1 country. It used to be called a what's that word? Third world or phrase, third world country. It's no longer that. We call like there are 4 levels of countries, and usually a level 1 means is that they don't have access to travel. They do now, even if
Not
it's
only
a
do I
bike.
not have access, I was watching somebody on YouTube Shorts last night, and I'm like, this, I don't know what, I believe it was Africa, but it could have been Jamaica. And I'm like, this person has made themselves famous because of a smartphone.
And you know that because if you go through YouTube Shorts, these people are making themselves, they're giving the world access to that. They have high tech too. Like the way there's this idea that, it's that people are um they're not at what aka the United States level, or they don't learn the same way, or they don't learn. That is just, it's so irrational. But we have our own belief systems, but we're able to see what people are doing around the country. And teachers, like I said, they can put this information out and their students can learn rapidly. There are teachers right now that they record themselves so their students can go back and learn while they're at home. You know what? Because it's we didn't have email in the 80s where, I could email my teacher and be like, I didn't get this concept. I had to wait till I got to school to be like, teach me this. I didn't learn this. Now you can just go on YouTube and figure it out. Now I can't say that it's all right sometimes, but it's available. And
And I'll
then
tell you, it's available, YouTube's available. And even when I think about being in elementary school, we got to use the Apple computer if you were the good kid. We had
Same.
to read certain books. There are certain books that I just didn't get because of the way it was written. And now you could literally just, let's go with the basics. Like you could literally just download, you could listen to Spotify, because I didn't realize I could get my books on Spotify. Buying the Audible. Like if I had access to Audible, I think I would have been a better student because I would have grasped the concept better. Because even, as an adult, I remember when Lauren was in high school, I actually read, what is it, Of Mice and Men on Audible, so we could have a conversation about it because they gave him the book. I mean, I got so many books on here that I was like, this is a really good book, but I'd have never physically opened it because my brain was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. So now when we think about technology, the next generation is faster because they can learn it faster. They can go on YouTube to learn it. Mina, think about it. Like, remember, like there were certain concepts in high school. At the science teacher, the math teacher, they would teach you something, sit there, and it was so boring. Like boring is all get out. I really
not
wanted
unless
to
you
say
have
something
Mr.
else,
Deado.
except for Mr. Detto. But it was so boring that you were like, you couldn't wait to get out of there. I was probably somewhere else. I was probably already left high school, like for the day in my mind, just zoned totally out. But I could literally today, if I don't get something, I could go to YouTube or
Well,
TikTok now
let's
or
talk about
Instagram,
boring. Do
and
you
I can
think?
go, somebody else can break it down in 5 minutes where I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Let's do this.
But
But
wait,
now I
boring.
could just go take, I could go into Gemini, Google Gemini or Chat GPT or Perplexity or Copilot and just say, can you take this concept and break it down to a third grade level? And then they tell a story. And I'm like, oh, like, because some people don't get it. Like in real estate, you have to take an exam to get your real estate license. And they say that the barrier to entry is low. Kind of like some of these exams are really, really hard. And you'll get questions like, what is a bundle of rights? You're like, what? What does sticks have to do with this? Because if you ever
A
Google bundle of
bundle of
rights,
rights. All I'm thinking about is
bundle,
like an insurance
bundle,
company. We
like
bundle
right,
everything.
you're like, no, but a bundle of rights, like what do you have rights to? And I had to memorize memorize the real estate book because that was the only way I was going to pass it. But if someone had told a story, I'd have got it.
But wait, hold up. You said the word boring back in education. I'm going to tell you something. It's still boring, and kids still tune out, and they still go on this. You will see them. I remember teaching here in California, and kids had these. They actually, kids had typically an Android because I think it was only AT&T that offered the iPhone at the time. And this is what I saw. And you would see them looking down, and you'd have this light in their face. I'm like, "Are you on their phone?" No. I said, "Well, then you must be seeing the light." because they because either I was boring, which could have been, but that was, what was that something nomics. Remember that one video that every year they created, social nomics? That's what it was. And it said people having an attention span of less than a goldfish now. That's still happening. So
Yeah,
when
it's
you
7
say
seconds
that,
for a goldfish, or 8 seconds for a goldfish, 7 seconds for a
it's
human.
now like 4 seconds less than. So my point is that we're still boring, and kids can go learn. There are kids dropping. Okay, parents are like, my kid, because of COVID, pandemic changed the world, meaning parents realized that if there were two parents or a family that was living in the same household, they realized that they didn't have to, one of them didn't have to work because society made it where somebody couldn't go to work. And they realized they could offer their child homeschooling. Their kids got better at it. School districts had to get smart enough to offer homeschooling this way because it was boring at school, and they can do most of the learning in half the time. And I'm going to give you a good example. Madeline, the youngest, she was like, "I don't want to do this." At first, she was upset. She was like, her literature book was this thick. She's like, I have to read this by next week. I had to stop what I was doing and help her. But by next year, she was like, it was half a day. She started a baking business. She was able to go to soccer. Um, be done by noon, 8 to noon online. She was still getting good grades. Now, it didn't work for everybody. We were very clear about this, but here's what she learned. She learned that she could do everything she wanted to do in a lesser amount of time because she had the internet and she had everything in front of her, and kids weren't distracting her in classrooms because you have those 15-minute classrooms. But wait, there's more. At the end of the school year, towards about March, school districts were like, "Oh, you can come back to school, but you have to come on days like half the students on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We'll swap Fridays out for the next group that's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So every other Friday, but you still have to come to school all day. But you can choose one or the other." You know what she said. "Why would I go back to school when I can do all my work by noon, but and be done with all my homework by 2 or 3, go to soccer practice and have access to the fun stuff? I'm not going back." That is what's happening because of technology. It's not even just digital natives anymore. It's the digital divide. It's the haves and haves nots. It's how are kids learning? Like that, mind blowing.
So when you say that, because I'll do my quick story is someone that works for me, one of their kids was like, I don't want to go back. So homeschooling, working with other parents, I mean, it really it's happening. But what you said something important when it comes to the entrepreneur life, when we think about this, is it told us that we did not have to go in the office to do business. And right now, in the world of real estate, we're challenged with some changes. And so it is forcing us to have conversations with clients like
Yep.
this. It's forcing us, and we were doing it during the pandemic, showing properties with our smartphones or creating videos so someone could buy the property sight unseen, but with the video. Or it's, now I can actually meet with my clients this way, or I can send them a pre-created video on how to shop using our version of the MLS. And I was able to go through the Goldman Sachs 10KSB program, which is um, for small businesses. And it's free. It's not free. You have to still show up, but having an advisor every single week showed me that I didn't have to have a physical office. Now, do I still think I need one because there's something about building relationships and the human interaction and the motivation? I do think we need to go
Right.
show up and see each other in person. There's just still something to that. but it's proven that you could actually grow a successful business in the online space and anybody could compete. And I can't say that it's going to 100% level the playing field, whether it's real estate, you decide to open a bakery, but it's showing us that we could actually what you're saying it. You said something very important about TikTok and Amazon the other day because I was like, TikTok's getting shut down. We could talk conspiracy theory another day, but you said, Carrie, TikTok is the new competition for Amazon, and I was like, hmm.
Mm.
So to me, I am now making myself a global real estate company because I'm licensed in Florida and I can actually, I think that the technology is going to be where do I have to show property in person? No, I can have access, open the door, and me and the client can walk through the property, physically through the property with a hologram. Like I see, like in my head, I think that this is why when we talk about the digital native, these are the next generation that's always grown up with technology. For the rest of us, we have to make a decision to actually show up to learn it and not be afraid of it. And if you're really like, why do I have 10 emails? You go take free classes at the library or at the local college so you can actually start
MIT.
using the technology. You can, but some people just need to go to the library and let some kid like this. But this is a great opportunity to collaborate with the next generation and let them help you. A lot of times we don't want the next
Right.
generation to help us because we just want to know it all, especially in the real estate world. I'm like that. I think the next generation needs to get in and volunteer earlier because they're going to shape our industry faster. They're going to make us think differently.
Well,
So,
they do. And what they do, what they've made me think about is they're like, you know what, this job isn't fulfilling and I don't need to be treated this way. I'm out. Like that's that generation. And
yeah, we were
and
going to work sick. We were going to work. Our bosses were just nasty. They told us that if I'm not being treated well, I'm out because they're not afraid to take the risk. Where a lot of them, when we had jobs, we went to work with little kids at home, sick as a dog, because we knew if the kids got sick, you needed to be available for them. So and Jonathan, we talk all the time about what is it like, he said they need me. He's like, so he had some flexibility to show up from instead of 6 a.m. at 7 when he was supposed to be there at 6.
well, that's just it. That's happening because there are the Walmarts, the Targets, they can't find people. They're not paying them enough because this generation realizes that even though they may not have the same information in their head, they realize that their time is more valuable and you pay them time by hours. And they're like, no, I don't need to stay here. And and even what you just said about figuring out how to figure it out, I'm gonna tell you right now, Amazon made a mistake. And that mistake was like you were able to get on Amazon to sell and talk about stuff. They should have opened that up to all of us. They should have had their own feed because now anybody can sell. And it's not even almost anybody can sell. You have to have so many things to do the TikTok shop, but I can still talk about a product and put it in my bio and still offer it and still be an affiliate on Amazon, but do it on TikTok. And that's, I'm telling you, there's something to be said about this whole idea of how we give access and teaching kids, um, even, okay, agents, adults, whatever. We're not teaching them how to use the tools to help the world. And if we don't teach agents, business, entrepreneurs, children, teachers how to use these tools, they're going to try to make it up on their own. There are some people that can just go for it. Let's just do it. But if we don't give them the information about how we can leverage it, then they're going to make it up and they're going to get out there and do some things that we don't want them to do. And that, you can look it up. I don't know. It's The Social Dilemma. You can watch that on Netflix. You can watch Coded Bias on Netflix. It's the idea of if we don't help the next generation understand, and the next generation, meaning the teachers who or the people who are educating the next generation, they're going to go figure it out on their own. And sometimes figuring it out on their own is like, raising a child and saying, well, go ahead and do whatever you want. And then they have access to seeing people do things like drugs or alcohol. And they're like, well, that must be okay because they're doing it. And we teach them the wrong way, or at
So
least not a good way.
So here's what I'd love to do is we would like to challenge all of you to, take a moment, brainstorm maybe with people in your office or in the education space, and, ask us questions. Ask us questions on the podcast, ask us questions on social media, ask us questions on YouTube, because we want to keep coming back and having conversations around AI, social media, technology. We could say science, maybe, and then
Crossroads of real estate and
math,
education, how
right.
those
I'm
two work together.
I'll talk predictive analytics. We'll figure all of this out. So, Dr. Mina Blazy, Mina Joe. I am Carrie Joe Little, the designated managing broker of Caremark Realty Group. I am in the education space in the real estate world. I could easily say, and in the business world. Um, we want to thank all of you for watching, and we want you to keep showing up.
Yes, we do. And I'm Dr. Mina Blazy. I'm in the education space and public education. And yes, I have crossed over into real estate. So thank you so much for watching.